Hey, what is up, YouTube? In this video, I'm going to be doing my short-term impressions slash review of the Hati S Plus 4K. Right off the bat, I'm going to say that this mouse is pretty amazing if you can stomach the terrible build quality for $170, and or rather, it's not necessarily the build quality, but more like the QC issues, and also the price point. I mean, the price point is a little bit ridiculous. However, you are paying for cutting edge tech, and you are also paying for cutting edge weight and a really good shape. So, yeah, let me get right into the review. Build quality. First of all, I had three big issues. Well, two minor and one big issue with this mouse. And the two minor issues are that the scroll wheel on my copy, it creaks when I press in. It's not the end of the world, but it's because the actual the scroll wheel just sits on top of like a standard Huano red dot switch, and so it grinds against the plunger, which is kind of annoying, but it's something that you can just tolerate. Again, for $170, that should not be the case, but it's G-Wolves. The second issue is that my base was horrendously uneven. It was wobbling pretty badly along the left click, along this axis right here. So I had to shim the right click and the other corner. And after that, the wobble was pretty much gone. Most people aren't going to notice that. Let's see. The last issue, and the most annoying issue by far, was with the clicks. I'm going to talk about the zippy clicks further down the video. Spoiler alert, they're fucking shit. But the actual... So I have the zippy switch that I pulled out, and I replaced them with Kale 4.0s. But in this switch, I don't know if you guys can hear. Well, you guys might have heard the door squeaking, but if you hear faintly, I'm just moving the plunger back and forth, and there's such an absurd amount of play on this plunger that it's wild. And when I first got this mouse, I was wondering why the clicks were creaking so much, because every time you would just press, the pre-travel would just fucking wobble, and it was the most annoying thing. So I swapped the switches out, and lo and behold, there are no problems at all with the clicks anymore. So, yeah, the zippy switches, they suck. They sound terrible. They are straight up the dullest mechanical switches I've ever used in a gaming mouse. They are dull. They are not nearly as tactile as Kale 4.0s. And I don't understand why there is such a weird cult behind these switches. They're just bad, and they clearly haven't been binned properly, because both my left and right mouse buttons, they grinded every time I tried to click. So yeah, a big rant over. Replace your switches, in my opinion, or just deal with them. I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world, but again, for $170, I expect perfection. Okay. Moving on from the bad things about this mouse, because those are really the worst things about this mouse, because this mouse otherwise is pretty insane. Starting with the coding is good. It is not on par with the Vaxi XE or the X-M1R, but I would say in terms of quality, it's right up there with the Super Light. It's pretty grippy if you sweat, and it gets the job done. You don't need grips on this mouse, which is a lot better than what I can say for Razer's offerings. So the coding is good. The encoder is very, very good. It is a TTC Gold encoder. I have no complaints with it at all. And the side buttons are good. The skates are trash, but at least the base is flat, so you can just put on whatever skates you want, and they work great. Yeah, so I want to talk about the sensor now. I want to talk about 4K wireless, because I feel like the topic is a little bit controversial. People claim all sorts of things about 4K wireless, and I'm going to say that it is an improvement for sure over 1K, and it is not really. I don't want to say it's noticeable, because it's not really. It's more like an unconscious thing. You'll just find yourself micro adjusting on whiff a little bit easier. You'll find your aim just to be a hair snappier. But the thing is also, in tandem with the very low weight, I think the 4K really helps. I used a Viper 8K, and for a little while, and to be quite frank, I really could not notice like an improvement with 4K or 8K. Like maybe it was a little bit smoother on the desktop, but in game it was not like a significant difference. With this mouse, it's a little bit different. When I was using a Starlight, I was not consistent with that mouse at all, and the wireless tech on that mouse is not great. However, with the 4K on this mouse, with this weight and this shape, it is just a little bit better. So that's my take on 4K wireless. It's not, if you're used to a super light, you're not going to you're not going to see an improvement, if at all, on like the 4K. Like it's going to be very very small, but it is there. So yeah, if you guys want the numbers or like the actual data, this mouse is basically on par with the Vaxi or like Zowie implementations of their sensors. It's about a half a millisecond slower than the Vaxi XE in terms of motion delay. So it's pretty good. That's pretty fucking good for a wireless mouse. Okay, 4K wireless and all of that aside, I want to talk about the battery life now, because obviously the battery life is terrible. It's like 10 hours and then you got to charge. Yeah, that's really all there is to say. And also, this mouse uses micro USB, which is really stupid for 2022. Yeah, so that's really the bulk of the tangibles. Lastly, I'm just going to talk about the shape, because it is very, very close to the Viper Mini. You guys see here, it's a little bit less wide in the back, but it also is more bulbous in terms of the hump. But I mean, in hand, the shapes are very, very close. I would say that the front flare feels a little bit less aggressive than the Viper Mini, and overall, the mouse is a little bit higher in general. So, as you guys can see, the hump is just a little bit more bulbous, and so it gives a little bit more support and claw grip. It honestly feels very close to like a Superlight merged with like a Viper Mini. So, I really, really like this shape. I am very, very well with it. And coupled with the sensor and the weight, this is definitely like a performance mouse. But definitely expect to tinker with it a little bit if you don't want to RMA it. And of course, RMAing with G-Wolves is a hit or miss. So, yeah, this mouse is going to get a tentative like recommendation by me, but by no means do I think like anybody should just go out and get it. It's $170. For most people, the Superlight is going to be better, like hands down, in terms of quality control, shape, and everything. So, yeah, that's my review. If you guys have any questions, and if you disagree with me at all, just leave a comment. I'd appreciate it. And also like and subscribe.